Imagine if there was a supplement, a hack, or a strategy that could change everything for you as a man. Increase muscle mass, increase energy and focus, burn fat, improve mood, and even make you more attractive to the opposite sex. That's the promise of raising testosterone. Men around the world are led to believe that simply increasing testosterone can solve all of their problems, turning them into physical specimens with the confidence and charisma to match. It almost sounds too good. And you know what they say about things that sound too good? These days, it feels like half of fitness YouTube is talking about raising testosterone. Use this one weird hack to 10 times testosterone, and I think it's largely a waste of time. That's maybe a bit of a bold statement, but now I'm going to break down why I think that. Let's start with the obvious. Raising testosterone within normal levels, within normal ranges, naturally isn't going to have a huge impact on your life. So, testosterone is measured in nanograms per deciliter, and a normal range is anywhere between like 300 and 900, say, or 1,000. What really matters though is your free testosterone, because most of the testosterone in your body is bound to proteins, making it unavailable for use by the body. Someone taking PEDs, that's steroids, to try and increase their performance, their muscle mass, they're likely to see their nanograms per deciliter go anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000. So that's a huge jump. Conversely, if you're using natural methods to try and increase your testosterone within the normal range, then with the best will in the world, with all the optimizations, you're likely to see about a 10 to 20% increase. And at the higher end, you're likely to go from 900 to 990. The higher it is, then the more diminishing returns you're going to experience, because if your body's already producing near its maximum testosterone, it's going to be harder to increase it that little bit more. If you look at most of the people who talk about raising testosterone and you watch the whole video and take into account the context, normally they will say, at least the reputable ones will say, this isn't going to mean you pack on loads of muscle overnight. You're going to look at maybe a little bit of extra muscle, a little bit of weight loss, nothing major.
Most likely not going to make you look like somebody that abuses steroids that's on Instagram.
Right. It absolutely won't.
Right.
What it will do is increase some of the, it will mildly increase some of the parameters that we've talked about related to testosterone.
But you know what's not a waste of time if you want to increase confidence? That's looking after your skin and maintaining a healthy skincare regime, which is why I'm happy to say that today's sponsor is Tiege Hanley. Tiege Hanley is a company that simplifies the process of looking after your skin by providing not only the products, but simplified steps on how to use them. You don't need to think about it, you just get great skin as long as you follow the instructions. I have little sunspots and things around my skin, but what I was surprised to see that was as soon as I started moisturizing, they drastically improved just because the skin tone around them is more even and because there's not as much dead skin and because I have more color. I recommend you start with their level 1 system, which comes with all the basics, a daily face wash, an exfoliating scrub, an AM moisturizer with SPF 20, and a PM moisturizer. And in addition to amazing skin, members of Tiege Hanley also get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off the retail price, access to exclusive monthly deals, the ability to pause or cancel at any time, and free US shipping. And you don't have to take my word for it, they have over 7,000 5-star reviews, so they must be doing something right. Because Tiege Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers a great deal. Just click the link in the description and you'll get 30% off your first box plus a free gift. Don't miss out on this amazing deal, click the link and get started today. And now, on with the show. Even someone using PEDs isn't going to instantly gain tons and tons of muscle, lose loads and loads of fat, unless they're training and eating right as well. You get people who use steroids who don't look like they use steroids. It's not an overnight thing, you need to put in the work. And that's doubling, tripling, quadrupling testosterone levels. So if you're just increasing yours by a tiny amount, then no, you're not going to see a drastic increase in muscle mass. But Adam, you're saying, I've seen the studies, this ingredient, tonka ali can increase testosterone by this amount, and beetroot juice can increase testosterone by this amount, and taking a magnesium supplement can boost it by this amount. So surely by just stacking these, you'll increase your testosterone by 10%, 15%, 20%, and before you know it, 100 or 200%. Seems logical, right? Well, there are a lot of issues with this. Firstly, we need to consider that percentages and points, it depends a lot on what your testosterone is to begin with. If you've got very low testosterone and you add 30 points, then that's a bigger relative increase than if you've got normal testosterone and you add 30 points. At the same time, many of these studies have been blown way out of proportion. For example, most of the studies on tonka ali are based on people with hypogonadism. In other words, these are people with already very low testosterone production, so of course they're going to see a higher benefit than you or me who's got normal levels of testosterone. At the same time though, the body is a complex self-regulating system. It wants to maintain a state of homeostasis. It doesn't want to suddenly jack up a certain hormone. It is the way it is for whatever reason. You can't just stack lots on top of each other and expect to get additive results. It also depends very much on the mechanisms of action of that specific herb, mineral, or intervention, and what your specific issue might be. For example, taking extra magnesium and zinc isn't going to have a big impact on someone who isn't deficient in those nutrients to begin with. Tonkat Pallais is currently the new hotness when it comes to boosting testosterone. The research surrounding this one is pretty positive, and the anecdotal evidence is crazy. There are plenty of videos of people exclaiming that it helped them to regain lost energy and build more muscle, to the extent that some have even experienced some of the negative impacts associated with high T, things like hair loss and acne. There is a confirmation bias happening here. I'm not saying this doesn't happen in some cases, but again, those are likely people with testosterone levels at the very lower end of the spectrum, and they are likely unusually strong responders. Those with meh experiences tend not to make videos about their crazy results with eye-catching thumbnails. Just take a look at this poll on Reddit, where users were asked to rate the kind of impact that the herb had had on them. 58 of the users said the results were good, 12 described their experience as godly, but 62 described it as okay, while 38 were meh, and 11 were bad. And what is good but not godly? I'd suspect that that's a moderate change. You know, the sort of change where you're a bit excited for the first few weeks until you eventually stop taking the supplement and notice no change whatsoever. Remember, if these interventions are to be effective, they need to be worth doing forever. Be honest with me, when was the last time you adopted a testosterone boosting strategy, or even any other biohack, and genuinely stuck with it for over 2 years? Animal studies suggest that Tonkat Pallais may work by stimulating the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, that's the HPA axis, and by jacking up luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, and encouraging the Leydig cells thereby to get to work. And/or it might work by inhibiting sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, and thus increasing free, usable testosterone. There's some evidence of it inhibiting aromatase enzyme to reduce the conversion of testosterone into estrogen, and it may even have some positive indirect effects on testosterone simply by decreasing stress. So if you're someone who has high levels of stress, or someone who has higher levels of sex hormone binding globulin, then you could see disproportionately positive benefits from using TA. So it is worth trying these sorts of things out if you have very low testosterone. This is speculative, keep in mind. I simply wanted to demonstrate that just because one person sees a big effect, that doesn't mean everyone will. Those signals then get amplified, and suddenly everyone is buying this random herb, just like everyone was buying Tribulus terrestris a while back. It's also not as simple as more testosterone, more muscle. As we've already discussed, you also need more free testosterone. On top of that, it's about the ratio of testosterone to other hormones, estrogen, dihydrotestosterone. And on top of that, you need androgen receptors in the muscles in order for the testosterone to have an effect and cause muscle growth. It's far more nuanced and complex than most people would have you believe, and we need to treat it as such. And of course, another big one is cortisol to testosterone. And what all this means is that you can have high testosterone, but if your cortisol is high as well, then you might not be as anabolic. If both are at good levels, but you don't have as many androgen receptors, then you might find you don't build as much muscle mass. The number of androgen receptors you have is partly genetic, but it can also be modulated by training, which is why someone who takes steroids isn't necessarily going to build massive muscles if they aren't also training, because you need to train to create those androgen receptors. So this is one reason why people get different results. And similarly, if you have high testosterone but you also have high estrogen, then you might not get quite the same mood boost or quite the same aggression as you otherwise would do from increasing testosterone. Likewise, there's all this fuss about icing your balls, cold water exposure as a great way to boost testosterone, but as I explained in my video on cold showers, the studies that support this are actually focusing on men who had enlarged blood vessels in their genital region. Now this affected around 10% of the population apparently, if I'm remembering correctly, so that's still a lot of people who might get some benefit, but it's not going to affect everybody. So to say I'm going to take a cold shower and have this massive testosterone boost, that's just not the way it's going to play out. At the same time, those studies were looking at people in ice baths, usually submerged for a long period of time, not people standing in a cold shower for 1 minute in the morning. Again, we need to consider the whole context here. But what's that? Once again, I hear you protest. But Adam, you say, average levels of testosterone have fallen among the general population. Men are losing a percentage of testosterone every single year. We've dropped 10% in the last 10 years. This is terrible. We need more testosterone. But here's the problem. You are not the average person. The average person takes into account everybody. That includes people who are elderly, and we're living longer than ever before, so there's more of those people in the sample sizes normally. That includes people who are very overweight, and again, more people are overweight than ever before. It includes people who aren't getting adequate sleep, people who are very stressed, people eating a poor diet, all these things that we know are more prevalent today. If you're watching this video, and if you watch a lot of videos on boosting testosterone, chances are you go to the gym, eat really well, and try and optimize your sleep, which means you do not fall into that average demographic. That statistic doesn't apply to you. You've already boosted your testosterone back to the normal level. It probably is no different than it would have been 10 years ago. There's not some kind of conspiracy. They're not pumping the air full of estrogen as much as some people might like to tell you otherwise. So there's nothing wrong with your testosterone. You don't need this stuff unless there is something wrong with your testosterone, because that is the other side of this. And of course, if you do fall into any of those categories, if your sleep is bad or you don't get any exercise, then those are the things you should be looking at. And not because you need more testosterone, that's missing the forest for the trees, simply because it's the right thing to do for your health in general. In this case, you're not unhealthy because your testosterone is low. Your testosterone is low because you're unhealthy. And you shouldn't expect some herb to fix all those problems for you in the place of actual positive healthy lifestyle changes. Nor should you blame your lack of a sex life on a plastic bottle you've been taking to work. Are they absolutely optimal for your health? Probably not. And sure, if you get a kick out of optimizing every inch of your lifestyle, then go for it. But for most people, agonizing over the chemicals in your shampoo or what fertilizer was used on that apple, it's just unnecessary stress, basically a waste of time. So again, doing all these hacks, taking all these nutrients and supplements isn't going to suddenly boost your testosterone levels and help you to build tons of muscle, so you can take your balls out the freezer. But I actually think that a lot of people interested in increasing testosterone are not doing it for the muscle anyways. I might be way off base here, but I think a lot of people are more interested in becoming alpha. They think that boosting their testosterone is going to make them more aggressive, assertive, confident. It's going to give them loads of energy, going to make them attack the gym and wake up first thing in the morning with a raging hard-on, ready to take on the world. Women are going to fall at their feet and men are going to want to be them. Unfortunately, again, that's not how it's going to play out. Just as with the muscle, you're not increasing your testosterone enough here to see any major differences to your personality, etc. At the same time, there's nothing to say that more testosterone always equals better mood. And a lot of people will simplify this and tell you that your depression is probably caused because you got low testosterone. That's not true. Depression is a complex and serious disorder that has many causes. Maybe in some cases it's caused by low testosterone. It can be caused by neurochemical imbalances. It can be caused by all kinds of things, even brain damage. So we can't just say, oh, this is going to solve all your problems. That's a little bit callous. Okay, it's quite a lot callous. And all these people telling you that increasing your testosterone will suddenly turn you into an alpha male giga chad, once again, they're selling you on a bit of a pipe dream, because think about the last time you had a higher than normal level of testosterone. Chances are that was when you were a teenager. Chances are that these hacks aren't going to get you back to the state you're in your late teens in terms of testosterone production. So how did you feel back then? On top of the world? Like an absolute boss? Or were you perhaps shy and awkward and probably full of mood swings? I mean, that was my experience of being a teenager. I'm probably more confident, more focused, more driven now than I was back then. I think that's probably true for most people here. And that's maybe a bit of an unfair comparison, because there's lots of things going on when you're a teenager that make you feel a bit emotionally insecure, etc. Your brain is developing, your lifestyle is complicated, to say the least. But that's kind of my point. I'm saying that there's lots of things that affect your mood and the way you feel, and just changing this one thing isn't going to suddenly solve all your problems. Unfortunately, nothing will just solve all of your problems. Likewise, you don't see steroid users suddenly taking over the world. In fact, a lot of them suffer from emotional disorders, and this is because they've jacked their testosterone up to unnatural levels, also often unintentionally increased estrogen, and to a lesser extent, some of these things are slight concerns if you're raising testosterone, even naturally, and especially with some of these hacks and herbs and things that, need further study. That's before we've even addressed the outright negative symptoms of extremely high testosterone. Issues like acne, joint pain, oily skin, hair loss, aggression. If your testosterone levels are normal or high, you wouldn't necessarily want to go above this. We also don't have much research looking at the long-term impacts of something like Tongkat Ali. And while there isn't much strong evidence to suggest short-term toxicity, there are some tenuous studies that do tell us we shouldn't completely rule it out. It's the same reason I don't recommend the use of synthetic nootropics like modafinil. The lack of long-term research just makes it a bad idea. Why waste time and money and even risk your health when better training and optimizing your lifestyle will yield far greater results? Take the advice of the fantastic Josh Brett and make yourself a late adopter. Don't buy into the hype of every new supplement. If you're going to be doing this stuff safely and properly, making sure that what you're doing is working and avoiding negative effects, then you should really be doing things like your blood work and getting the advice of an expert on top of that. But this isn't what most people are going to do. Most people are going to find something that they think will have an effect and just take it and hope for the best.
You need to do your blood work. You need to monitor your liver enzymes. You need to be smart about your health.
Point is, it's not that simple, and chances are that this 10% increase in testosterone isn't going to suddenly change your life. And I am someone who did a lot of this stuff because I'm the pioneer. I'm interested in this stuff. I did lots of biohacks as a younger guy to try and increase testosterone. I took all sorts of supplements that were all the rage at the time, Tribulus terrestris, which now is considered to be absolutely nothing. Trust me, a lot of these supplements that we're using now are going to be just ignored in a few years as well. None of it made a lick of difference to the way I felt.
Physically, I didn't feel a difference taking these supplements. Like, I didn't feel like I had more performance in the gym. I didn't feel more virile for life. I didn't feel much of a difference because I already had great lifestyle habits.
I've realized recently, I feel like it kind of loses its effect, and then I feel like when you cycle off and then go back on it, it seems to bump it back up again.
So for this video, I did decide to order some Tonkat Ali and give it a go. And it's only been just over a week, but many people who find they have results say it's after about 6 days. I'm not lying when I say I feel absolutely nothing. I haven't got any increased energy, no increased libido, no increased muscle mass or leanness, just, normal plain old me. And I'm not saying that all those people that say they get these results are lying. I'm not saying that can't happen. As I've explained, there are different processes that are going to affect different people differently, and you're more likely to experience something if you have low testosterone. All I'm saying is that this experience, my experience, is also very common, and probably, I would wager, by far the more common one. What has made a massive difference in terms of my energy and focus and drive is training throughout the day, something I've talked about loads on this channel. Splitting my workouts up throughout the day has practically solved any brain fog, any lethargy that I might have had. I have far more energy, and I'm spiking my protein synthesis multiple times throughout the day, so that to me is by far a much better life hack. So maybe give that a try. And to be clear, I'm not saying that this stuff can't work, that you won't get any benefit. I'm saying that the benefit will be small, it will be a tiny bit, and that could be beneficial for some people. If you're someone with very low testosterone, then chances are that something like this could be useful for you. If you're in the 300 range or even lower, if you're suffering with things like depression and erectile dysfunction and you can't gain muscle and you keep gaining weight, you may well have low testosterone, and something like Tonkat Ali could be a great alternative before you consider hormone replacement therapy. I'd still recommend seeing a doctor and speaking to them because that's an actual condition. For the majority of people watching this though, for the 99.9%, all the effort in the world is likely to increase your testosterone by a very small margin, and you almost certainly won't feel it. And the best hacks for increasing testosterone are training and working out, losing weight, getting better sleep, getting outdoors more. These things will do wonders for your testosterone compared with, some herb or nutrient or whatever, and you don't need to think about it because it just is stuff you should be doing anyways. So yeah, just don't put too much focus on testosterone, don't waste too much time or money on it unless you're someone who has an actual condition. And that's why I wanted to make this video, because I think the amount of discussion surrounding testosterone is extremely disproportionate to the amount of benefit that it can get you. I'm sure there's lots of you who disagree with me. Of course, that's absolutely fine. And if you're someone who's had a big benefit from doing any of that stuff and focusing on their testosterone, that's absolutely awesome. Me personally, I've stopped thinking about it other than all the videos that pop up on my feed. Let's start a discussion down below. Let me know what's worked for you. Let me know what you focus on instead of testosterone and whether you agree with me broadly. Either way, thank you so much for watching this one, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.